You're gonna have to step out of your comfort zone. You're gonna have to take risks. You're gonna have to pursue the passions with courage and determination. You're gonna have to really put in the energy to find what your passion is, right, and work towards it. You can't just expect it to just happen to you, right? It doesn't just start here and it stays in your mind. You have to put in the action, work towards your purpose. What's going on, my mental gangsters? Thank you for clicking on this video. If you are new here, my name is Mike G. I appreciate everybody for clicking on this video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about some of the books that changed my way of thinking. These are the books that help my way of thinking, and hopefully if you haven't read them, you go out to read them. And if you have read these books, leave a comment down below if you like the books or not, if it helped you in a positive way. Also, these books that I'm about to go through are not ranked from the best to the worst. You know, like I said, these are books that just impacted me the last few years. I just thought that I would share these with you. If you haven't read these books, you know, hopefully you'll pick them up by the end of this video. Before I dive into these books, just a little background. I never was really a big reader, and maybe some of y'all can relate. You know, I did read, you know, in school and stuff like that, but once, you know, I got into the real world, I always found reading to be boring, right? But I knew in order to learn more, right, and in order to expand your knowledge and elevate your way of thinking, you have to read. During 2020, I decided to really push myself to read more. The first book that I picked up was The Subliminal Art of Not Giving a by Mark Manson. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have read this book. This is kind of like the staple of changing your way of thinking. It's very, very popular, and it is a New York Times bestseller. I feel like this is a staple, and a lot of people have probably heard of this book or seen it at their local bookstore or Target. This was a book that I picked up during COVID, and this was kind of the introduction of me to really just really think about mental health and how I think. Some of the things that impacted me while I read this book was, you know, happiness doesn't come from caring about everything. It's about carefully choosing what truly matters, your values, your loved ones, and personal growth. When I was reading this book, I started to realize that you really just got to stop caring so much about things that are out of your control. I used to be very timid and very easily triggered on things that I couldn't necessarily control, right? So like if I, you know, forgot about something, I would let that like ruin my day. Things like if I was running late for something and I would get caught at every red light, you know, I would put that energy into something else, or I would project that energy on someone that I was talking to, and I could see how that could affect somebody. So I realized that, you know, when you carefully choose what to care about, it really kind of makes your life a little bit easier, and it reduces the stress levels when things are chaotic and out of control, right? You can only control what you can control. Another thing that I took from this book was focus on taking action even if it isn't perfect. I started to really think about everything doesn't have to be perfect when I want to do something. Perfect is kind of a thing that can never be achieved, right? Nothing can never be perfect, but you have to start somewhere. Even if something isn't the way it's supposed to be all the way, still act on those things even if it's not perfect in your eyes. Because the longer you wait for something to be perfect, the longer time will go by. What I also took from this book was pain is inevitable. Suffering is a part of life, and that is true. Throughout this whole life, you're gonna go through things that you don't want to do. You're gonna go through hurt, you're gonna go through pain, and it is inevitable. And learning how to accept that, embrace the challenges for personal growth, you will start to understand more that, hey, in order for me to go through this pain, you know, the reason why this is happening is because I'm trying to get to a better point in my life, or I'm trying to achieve something that's great, right? And that's going to come with pain. It's going to come with pain regardless. Also, one important thing that I took from this book was, you know, you are responsible for your own happiness and the choices that you make. You can't blame external factors for your problem. Everything in your life is a choice. Whether you choose to do something or not, that is something that's going to impact your life. You can't blame external things that are out of your control to dictate the problems that you have in your life. Some things could be unfortunate, but you can't allow your happiness to suffer from that. Always remember, it starts by your way of thinking. Try to understand that you are in control with your emotions and your choices. You can choose to be happy regardless of your circumstances. Life is all about perspective, and that's another thing that was important in this book. that stood out was, the importance of perspective. Once you shift your perspective, you can dramatically change how you experience the world. Everything is all about perspective. Once you understand that, hey, even though things may be bad right now, open your eyes a little bit more and understand that it's just a perspective on how you look at the world. You could be going through the worst of times, but understand that that's just a storm. Eventually it will go away. Personal growth is an ongoing process, and you have to learn how to learn from your mistakes and try to be better. Mark kind of emphasizes that failure is not the end of the road, but it's just rather a necessary step for success. After I finished this book, I never thought again of failure just being the end all be all. I always looked at failure being a lesson to apply to whatever I want to do in life. Mark also talks about failure provides an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. By analyzing the mistakes, you can identify areas for improvement and develop new strategies. And one last thing I want to talk about that impacted me, Mark says that true happiness and fulfillment come not from the absence of pain, but from the process of overcoming challenges and growing through adversity. By finding meanings in our struggles, we can transform pain into a sort of strength and motivation. That really hit me because, you'll have a lot of setbacks in your life, but you have to understand that you have to learn from it. Learn through the adversity, learn through your failures, because every failure has a meaning to it. I really couldn't put this book down because you really don't have to put in so much energy to things that are out of your control. Stop giving. I definitely recommend this book to someone who is easily triggered by things that are out of their control. If you read this book, you will understand that you can't care so much about the things that are out of your control. You just got to stop caring and stop giving a f. All right, so the second book I want to talk about is one of my favorites. This book I read last year, and it really changed my way of thinking when it comes to achieving things in my life and personal growth and personal achievement of what I want to do. The 12 Universal Laws, as it says, was written by Dr. Herbert Harris, and the 12 Universal Laws are law of thought, law of change, law of vision, law of command, law of magnetism, law of focus, law of action, law of value, law of relationships, law of supply, law of persistence, and law of truth. Dr. Harris goes really deep into what each of these laws are and how they can really help you in your life. When you get ready to talk about a different law, Dr. Harris implements Bible verses in this book as well. He picks out a lot of good Bible verses in here that you can apply to each law within this book. He talks about the 9 rules of becoming successful. Do not procrastinate. Another one is do it now. Stand on your own 2 feet. Do not feel failure. Do not sell yourself cheaply. Develop a success habit of being goal-oriented. Visualize your goals and believe you can attain them. Plan your work and work your plan. And my favorite, number 9, do not quit. After I got done reading this, I'm just like, man, there's nothing that I can't achieve. In this book, he talks about one of the most fundamental levels of success is your matter of thinking. Success is a matter of consciousness. There are 3 levels of your mind and your conscious, and there's a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and a superconscious mind. Every level of mind has its own characteristics. In this book, he says, if you feel it, if you are not clear about where you're going, you fear the future and suffer anxiety, stress, and a host of other unpleasant feelings because your future is unknown, read this book. If you feel that you are unhappy, you're not clear about where you're going in life, you fear the future and suffer from anxiety, stress, and a host of other unpleasant feelings, get into this book, read this book, because by the end of it, your whole mind will shift differently, and you will start thinking about your goals and going towards those goals at a whole different level once you read this book. Success must be in your mind first. Consistently have a concept and vision in your mind of what success means to you. Get away from the crowd at the bottom. One of the most difficult steps you will face on your success journey is getting away from the crowd at the bottom. There are many unsuccessful, mediocre people who have failed to realize or act on their true potential. If you constantly associate with them, your success journey will be short-lived. You must clear the deck to make room for new associates, which will complement and enhance your success effort. Once you break away from the mediocre crowd, accept the temporary state of loneliness and prepare for your success. He also talks about Determine the worst possible outcome of the situation that you're worrying about and learn how to resolve and accept if the worst happens. Review your life experiences, especially those which worked out for you in the past. So understand that throughout your life, you have been in messed up situations, you've been in bad situations, and you have been able to figure it out and get out of that situation. When you're worrying about something, refer back to those times of when you was in a messed up situation. How did you get out of it? How did you figure it out? Apply that knowledge to what you're going through and what you're worrying about in the present. The 4 basic relationships: the relationship with God, relationship with self, relationship with others, relationship with things. You determine your harmonic relationship with God by the way you love yourself, by the way you feel about yourself. Love and value must be internalized first before they can be externalized to another person. So get yourself right, have a better relationship with God, work on yourself, and then go out and give that to somebody else. I always feel like nobody should get their happiness from another person. You should have that happiness internally, and whoever you meet or whoever you associate yourself with should just enhance that happiness. And the last thing that I'll leave with, telling yourself, I am and I will. If you consistently tell yourself that you are and you will, and having that consistently thought about in your head, that is a good level of persistence in applying that to what you want to do in life. This book really changed my way of thinking when it comes to whatever things that I think about or I want to achieve. I always use this book as motivation. The third book I want to talk about is The Way of a Superior Man.
The Way of the Superior Man. That's a book women should not give to their man unless they really secure in themselves. Because the message of that book is basically for powerful men, how to deal with your power. Because you got options. You get power and money, and so it just give you a unique perspective. You know what I'm saying, on the right way to do things, you know what I mean?
And I feel like after I read this book, if you are unaware of what your purpose is and you don't have a sense of purpose, I feel like, you'll struggle a little bit finding your place in the world, right? To me, God gave everybody a purpose. It just may take a little bit longer for people to find out what their purpose is. But I feel like it impacts a man more, because if a man, to me, doesn't have a purpose, or he doesn't have a sense of value, he's not the best version of himself. He's not the best man that he could be. I feel like every man should be aware of his purpose and have a sense of what his purpose is in order to be the best man that he can be to his kids, his family, his wife, and everybody around him. Like chapter 11, if you don't know your purpose, discover it now. The secret of success is to discipline your life so that you can support your purpose and minimize the distractions. So I really had to sit down and think about, okay, what did God put me on this earth to do? What is my purpose? What gives me life? What gives me a sense of purpose? And this book really made me think about what my purpose is in this life. David, to me, does a good job on, breaking down, how you can, find your purpose. Not only does he talk about men finding their purpose, he also talks about, challenges of dealing with women, work, and sexual desires. A man's life should be driven by his purpose. It's about being aligned with something that is meaningful and gives your life fulfillment. That is what your purpose is. To me, it's not just going to a job every day and doing something that you don't like. I do understand that you have to provide for your family and do what you have to do. But in order to have a life of happiness and fulfillment, I feel like you have to know what your purpose is. You're going to have to step out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to pursue the passions with courage and determination. You're going to have to really put in the energy to find what your passion is, right, and work towards it. You can't just expect it to just happen to you, right? It doesn't just start here and it stays in your mind. You have to put in the action, work towards your purpose. Living a life aligned with one's purpose provides a deep sense of meaningful and fulfillment, like I said before. Don't just get used to this cycle of, going to work, coming home, watching Netflix, eating dinner, and just repeating that again. While you're trying to figure out life, try to implement things within your routine that gives you fulfillment. Aligning with someone's true purpose in life involves identifying your passions, your talents, and taking action to create a meaningful and fulfillment life. When I first read it a few years ago, it really changed my way of thinking and made me really think about what my purpose is as a man. So yeah, this was a good book. So these next few books that I'm going to talk about, I either don't have the physical copy of or I listen to them via audiobook. And the next one I want to talk about is Level Up by Rob Dow. I'm not going to lie, this was probably the best self-help book that I've read in my recent years. I jotted down a whole bunch of notes when I read this book, and he was just dropping gems. I really have a lot of notes from this book. Your life doesn't get better without challenge, which is very, very true. Don't be a victim. Ask yourself, what can I do to learn and level up? Procrastination is just a symptom and not the cause of a future fear that I'm trying to avoid. This was the one that really hit me. You can't read the label if you're in the jar, meaning you have to get out of your own head. If you're in your own head, it is difficult to understand the way you act and feel. Look in the mirror, be self-aware of yourself. How do you respond to things? How do you react to things? How do you speak to people? Sometimes you have to step outside of yourself and read yourself to understand who you are sometimes. Don't let an imagined fear in your head hold you back from the life that you want to live in reality. Nothing up here when it comes to fear is real. True growth is feeling fear and deciding to still do the things you are afraid of. Growth only occurs with uncertainty. The brain has no reason to learn when things are predictable and stable. List all your fears and how you can learn from them. He also breaks up what natural fear is versus what it's called like primal fear and like intellectual fear. So primal fear would be fear that like if you're in danger, the instinct kicks in and thirsty, hungry lion trying to attack you, right? So you feel that fear versus like intellectual fear. If you're getting ready to present and you're thinking about, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about, that's just something that's in your head. He also goes into an exercise called the 7 whys. You ask yourself why 7 times. Let's just say you want to change careers, right? Well, why do you want to change careers? Because I want to make money. Well, why do you want to make more money? Because it gives me fulfillment. Well, what gives you fulfillment? Oh, because I want to take care of my family. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And once you get to that 7 why, that's the reason why you want to achieve a certain goal that you want to achieve. If something is important to you, you will find a way. If something is not important to you, you will find an excuse. You are the only one responsible for anything happening and not happening in your life. The best way to take action is to know what you specifically want. Again, that goes back to the 7 whys. Find the meaning behind your goal and just think and tell yourself, I don't care what happens today, but I won't go to bed without doing X, Y, and Z. If you're thinking what can go wrong, your brain will work hard to search for everything that can go wrong because that's what you're searching for in your head. Understand that the brain is afraid of doing what it hasn't done before. This was something that made me open my eyes too. He said, the brain is afraid of doing what it hasn't done before. Because the brain is trying to protect us, it also creates limitations that does not exist in reality. Level Up, go get that, Rob Dow. Very, very good book. Another book that changed my way of thinking was Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. If y'all don't know who Jay Shetty is, he's a very, very popular guy. He used to be a monk. He went to college, left college and became a monk. And then he took everything that he learned from being a monk, came back to the States and created a podcast, and that was one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Some of the things that he talked about in his book is the concept of a monkey mind, which consistently jumps from thought to thought, leading to anxiety and stress. He provides practical techniques to quiet the inner chatter and cultivate a mental focus. When your mind is all over the place, how to stay still, how to meditate and calm your mind. Strategies of identifying and challenging negative thought patterns such as self-doubt, fear, resentment, and replacing them with powerful beliefs, empowering beliefs, pouring into you in a positive, pouring into yourself versus thinking negatively. One thing that Jay Shetty talked about, having a source of fulfillment sometimes comes from being a service to others. Being a service to somebody, helping them in a positive way, that's something that can bring a lot of people fulfillment. He also emphasizes the importance of mindfulness and living in the present moment rather than dwelling on the past and worrying about the future. I actually went to go see Jay Shetty on his book tour for his second book called 8 Rules of Love. I recommend anybody who is on the journey of improving their mental health, lock in with Jay Shetty. His podcast is called the On Purpose Podcast. All right, and the last book I want to talk about, which may cause a little bit of controversy, and it's called Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith. Reading that book made me understand that you can't really judge a book by its cover, even though that may sound cliche, and people just really need to mind their own business. After I read her book, it really made me understand that everything that people see on social media, that's just noise, and you really have to know somebody and understand their background and where they come from before you start giving an opinion on something. Once I read her background and how she was dealing with mental health issues, really made me understand that everybody goes through something. Some of the stuff that she talks about in her book is finding your own worth, healing and self-discovery, finding your own voice, and breaking free from expectations. Jada also practiced ayahuasca. That's something that she also indulged in her healing journey. She also talks about her experience meeting Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a very, very popular monk. RIP to him, how he taught her how to heal and his practices and all that type of stuff. Her encounter with him was, very significant and a turning point in her life and her spiritual journey, and just a reminder of like the powerful presence of having inner peace. And like I said, she really goes into her mental issues, talks about, her relationship with Will, obviously, but that wasn't like the whole focus. And, I appreciate this book so much because she really talks about her personal growth, facing all these mental health issues, having a struggle with finding her place in the industry, and she goes into talking about the slap and everything like that. Like, and I don't know if people knew this, but like, Will and Jada, like they haven't been together officially for years, right? For years. I don't know if a lot of people knew that. Yeah, she talks about a lot of things about finding yourself and finding your voice and having inner peace and understanding that a lot of these materialistic things don't matter and being present and there for your family. And she talks about how she almost committed suicide and stuff like that. And it just made me open my eyes and be like, wow, like how can somebody who has all this fame be married to one of the most famous actors in the world still be depressed and still feel like they don't have a place in the world? And, it was interesting to learn her journey and how she healed and how she discovered herself. Yeah, that also opened, my eyes to understand that, you can't really judge people if you don't know them. Everybody can have an opinion on a person when they've never met them in their life, and they're just going off of what they see on their phone. Doesn't make sense to me. That's why, I try to not give my opinion on people or situations, because number one, it's not my business. My perception is what I see on a screen or what the media portrays. Get to know the person first, read their autobiography if they have one, and understand somebody before you just decide to make a comment or an opinion on them. So yeah, those are the books that I've read that changed my way of thinking. Let me know in the comments, if you've read these books, if, they impacted your life in a good way or a bad way, if they help you, if they didn't. And if you have any recommendations on more self-help books, please leave them in a comment, because I'm interested to reading more of self-help books. And I know there's a lot out there, but if you have some books to recommend, definitely leave them in the comments. Thank you again. Stay mentally G. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you know somebody who, is researching self-help and they want some recommendations on self-help books, you can share this video as well. So I appreciate you. Thank you again. See you in the next video. Stay mentally G. I'll see y'all later. Peace.